Okay, welcome everyone. So this is the State of the Union, where we basically just talk about forward, cloudsec, the conference, the budget, things like that, where things are at. And so the last State of the Union address was in 2023. It's been 2 years since then, so we felt it was a good time to update. Last time that we gave the State of the Union address, I would say things were growing at what seemed like an exponential rate, in that we didn't know, was this going to become a 1,000-person conference, 10,000, a million-person conference? We weren't sure. The sky seemed the limit. Things have plateaued, and we've also, wanted to maintain it at the level that it's been at. But I want to, in this presentation, give, I guess, some just various bar charts. It's just a whole bunch of bar charts. But I wanted to just kind of talk about where we're seeing things are at with a bunch of different things. And some of those bar charts show some areas where we think that we need to improve. But in general, it's also, a way to open up the discussion for you all to find out where you think we need to improve as well. The last presentation, also the last State of the Union, was primarily about the history of why we created the conference. And so I recommend you watch that one. This one doesn't have quite as much of that type of information in it. But I did want to have one slide just to kind of remind people that the mission of the organization is democratize security, that every individual and organization should have easy access to world-class security in the cloud. And so we make a bunch of decisions that are kind of based around this. So first of all, I guess the conference is owned by a 501c3 nonprofit organization. But we make a lot of decisions, like trying to keep the tickets prices very low, live streaming this for the people that can't travel here, putting up the recordings for people so that they can watch it. So we try and do all those things. We also, we're an independent conference. Something that breaks my heart sometimes is we've heard like one person thought we were associated with a cloud provider, like we were actually owned by a cloud provider, which to us is mind-boggling. The history of the conference is very much not that. But yeah, so we're independent. We're not affiliated with any provider, vendors, anything like that. We're independent from our sponsors. We don't give sponsored talks to people. We're practitioner focused. The people that are actually trying to secure, their companies. Those are the people that this conference was made for, and that it is like a community organization. That all the people that are a part of the conference all work for different companies, and we do want this to be a thing where that hopefully you as an attendee of the conference also feel like you're not just an attendee, but you're part of a community, you're part of a group, and that you can make an impact as well, that you can come up and talk to us and volunteer for things, get involved in various ways. So first of all, the board of directors for the nonprofit organization is shown here. I used everybody's Slack photos, so let me just swap in Chris's actual LinkedIn photo, so that is recognizable beyond a Lego character. But the board of directors, we do like 1 hour of work a year or something. Basically, it's just making sure that the conference is, and everything else that's a part of the organization, is living up to that mission. So the conference organizers, they're the ones that do a lot of work. And unfortunately for us as the board of directors, we're all the same people pretty much. And so Karim, the last individual there, he's not on the conference organizers for North America, but he is for Europe, and I'll talk about that here in a moment. But we're now in our 6th year. Many of us started with the very first year of the conference. And for many of us, this has been like a constant in our lives as we've changed jobs, working in the tech industry, after 6 years, chances are some of us have moved on to different jobs, and this has been like a constant for us. We've been able to see in the background of video conference calls, children grow up, beards grow down. So yeah, I mean, and And we realized, like, being in our 6th year, some of the organizers have moved on to other things. There were some in the first years that did move on to other things, and some of the organizers also, will eventually move on to other things as well. And so, we do want to bring in new organizers and volunteers and other people to help with the conference in different ways. The conference has talks as part of it. That's the main thing that happens here. And so the CFP reviewers have a very important job. And so we have additional folks involved in the CFP review process. So the CFP reviewers include not only all of the organizers, but then also these other individuals, and then also some individuals that, because of their jobs or whatever, chose to remain anonymous as well. So there's about 20 people involved in that review process. And we do that in order to ensure that there's a diverse range of subjects and interests represented across the different reviewers. Some people focus on certain clouds or certain technologies or GRC or something like that. And so we have people that have different interests, and we want to make sure that we're pulling in talks that represent all of these different types of interests to people, because we recognize that for the attendees, there's also a lot of different interests from people. Briefly, I'll mention that there is the EU conference as well, and so that largely has a different set of organizers. I really know very little about that conference because I'm not one of the organizers for it. Let me again switch in LinkedIn photos for people so you can actually see their faces. But yeah, so other than Chris and Aaron, who are also on the U.S. or the North America conference organizing committee, everybody else is EU-based over there, and one of them may be moving to the EU soon, I guess, of the U.S. folks. Also, I want to mention for the EU, though, that the CFP and call for sponsors is still open over there as well. So I think the CFP is open until July 11th, I think I was told. But yeah, so that is open as well. All right, so I guess I'll start jumping into some things. So this is your first bar chart. I guess there'll be a lot more of these. But one of the things that the conference has done for a number of years now is a scholarship program. And even though I guess we're just like picking some of the scholarship recipients and they're only spending like 2 days with us here, in some ways I feel like a proud parent when I do hear like that they've gone on to have success in various things. Ravitya, who is mentioned here with this quote that they provided us, they were a scholarship recipient in 2024. They are now going off to speak at B-Sides Las Vegas this year. So we're proud of like those types of things. But we've had other recipients have gone on to join the security teams of Apple, AWS, Grafana, various other companies. One thing about this bar chart here is you can see in the first year is basically like almost everybody that applied for the scholarship got it. And now we do have more people applying to the scholarship than we have spots available. And it is really difficult for us to pick who's going to receive that, because really all of the ones that apply should receive it. And so something that we want to have is this call for mentors here with this QR code that, we're able to help out those scholarship recipients, like provide them this experience for 2 days. But there's these other scholarship applicants that we don't do anything for, unfortunately. And so providing some mentoring, if you guys are interested in that, is something that I want to have a call for action on there. All right, so to give some information about the bar charts that I'm going to show, which are basically how things have changed over the different years, I want to just give like a quick history of the conference and where it's moved to. So I start out with the virtual conference, which is I put it in Canada because there was empty space on that map. That was in 2020, but then we moved to Salt Lake City, we moved over to Boston, moved over to Anaheim or LA, moved to DC, and then we've come out here to Denver. From the DC, there was the EU conference spawned from that, so there's the Brussels and Berlin conference there. Let's see. All right. I'm going to show a whole bunch of data, I guess, about this conference. I don't know if anybody other than the organizers are interested in, but I figure we'd show it to you all. And part of this is because, one, we want people to feel like they're involved in the conference, that this is a community that you should feel a part of in some way. And part of that is letting you see some of this. Another part is, I believe that transparency is important. I'm going to provide some information about our budget. Legally, we don't have to tell you about our budget, even though it's a nonprofit and everything like that. But I think that's important because that type of transparency, gives you trust. It lets you see, where is this money going to, and basically just why we're doing some of the things that we're doing. I've got a lot of notes that I'm reading on things that I'm supposed to say throughout all this. The other thing is that I'm going to be condensing 6 years of meetings and conversations into a couple bar charts. So there's going to be a lot of nuance and explanation that's going to be missing from all that. And so if you see something that you feel is wrong or it just basically doesn't seem right. There could be an explanation behind some of these things, reasons why we did various things. Some of the things are arbitrary choices. Some of the things are things we, felt like we copied from other conferences that we'd been to in different ways. But in general, we are proud of how we've made a lot of the choices behind the conference. So I guess the first bar chart here, though, to give an explanation of things, this is a bar chart of the number of talks, just so you can, again, get kind of an understanding of the background for the future bar charts that I'm going to be showing here. Blue is the number of talks on day 1, red is the number of talks on day 2, so you can see that in 2020 and in 2022, we were only a one-day conference. So the budget, this is a scary one to show people, but it's something that we wanted to show because we think being transparent is important. The first thing that you probably immediately notice is this is our expenses, and seeing expenses go up and to the right can be scary. That is one thing you don't want to have up and to the right usually, but it is something we did by choice. And so our budget is something that we are basically planning in advance and deciding what we're going to be spending on things, and then basically we go back and we figure out, okay, how much are we going to charge sponsors and things like that, and so we reverse engineer it in that way. So to talk about, I guess, some of this, 2020 was virtual, so pretty much no cost. 2021, that was our first in-person conference. 2022, there's a light blue section at the top, and that is a cancellation fee that we had to pay a hotel because we were originally going to be in Houston, I think it was, Houston, Texas, because that's where Reinforce was going to be, and then they made the last minute decision to switch up to Boston, and so we had to switch up to Boston as well, and so we followed them there. But we also added on an event planner, so that's part of that cost there. In 2023, we became a 2-day conference again. So 2022 was a 1-day conference. So 2023, we basically doubled our hotel costs because we were now 2 days. In 2024, we were in Anaheim, which ended up being expensive, especially because of some food trucks that we brought in. So that added a fair bit of expenses for that. And then that brings us to 2025, where one of the big expenses you can see this year is that yellow section, which is for speakers, because this is the first year that we're providing an honorarium for the speakers. And so basically, in addition to providing hotels for them, if needed, we also provide $600 honorarium for them as, thank you for speaking. But a big part of the reason why we did this was to try to get more talks from people that are practitioners, or basically they work at a company that they're not being paid as a full-time job to be a conference speaker. I guess none of the people that are speaking, that's their full-time job, but it is more like incentivized if you work at a cloud security vendor or something to talk at a cloud security conference. Another thing is that for 2025, a lot of these costs are also like what we budgeted, what we planned for. And so some of these costs are going to come down as we like figure out how much did we actually pay on things. Like one of the things is, at the very top, there's like some budget for the organizers. The organizers don't get paid, but we did decide last year, I think, that if an organizer is unable to, if their employer doesn't pay for their flight and hotel to come for this conference, we think it's reasonable to pay for their flight and hotel given the amount of work that's involved. And last year, I think we only had like one person do that, and so this year we budget some money, but it'll be less money because we probably all were able to have that done for us, or for the most part. Okay, so that was money going out. This is money coming in. So this is where the money comes from. What you'll see here is it largely tracks with the expenses of the conference. It is a little bit more if you were to closely analyze the previous picture and this one. We do have slightly more money coming in. That's because we don't want to, that's a thing we don't want to mess up. If we have less money than we spend, then we have to like file for bankruptcy, and somebody has to foot the bill for various things, I guess. So we do have a little bit more money coming in. We have built up a little bit of a rainy day fund in case, there's another pandemic, or there's, or economic troubles, or, sponsors don't pay or something like that. But yeah, so I guess one of the takeaways from this picture is that the sponsors do pay for most of the conference. So, we always recommend people, make sure you talk to the sponsors that are out there and stuff, make sure that they want to come back next year and continue sponsoring. So you can see the dark purple at the top there, that is the ticket revenue. And that's grown because we have increased a little bit the ticket prices, but it's also been increased the number of people at the conference. And then also this year we had the personal sponsor tickets, which were more expensive than the other tickets. There's also that green section there is like the lunch sponsors, and I guess it's just lunch sponsors. I think we did maybe a happy hour something sponsor as well. But this, you can also see how the, prices for the different sponsor tiers have increased as well. So like back in 2020, bronze tier was like $1,000. We originally planned also, to help you understand these numbers, like the first year it was planned to be an in-person conference. We planned all that out, and then obviously COVID happened and we had to switch to virtual. But you can see how these different prices have increased over time. And one of the things is, we felt that, the sponsors do get a lot of value, and that we had the ability to increase some of those rates and use that money to pay for the speaker honorarium in order to ensure, the value of the conference for people. Another kind of interesting thing is we saw a lot of sponsors kept getting acquired. we're like, I don't know if this is causation or correlation, but it seems to be, if you sponsor Forward cloudsec, that's a good thing for you. But yeah, so this just kind of shows like which sponsors sponsored which year and which of them got acquired. So 11 of the 51 sponsors have been acquired, which is 22%. For better or worse, AWS sponsored this year, and so that's going to hurt that statistic for being acquired, because there's not many acquirers that can acquire Amazon, I don't think. But yeah, so this is. That's that. This is how ticket prices have increased. So we were generally $100 per ticket, and then have increased to $150 this year. Plus, there's also those personal supporter tickets as well. And this is done partially because, one, there's the problem you've probably noticed that our tickets sell out very quickly, and especially in that first batch, and so we're trying to figure out what to do for that. But then also, we provide these lunches, and you probably look at that lunch and you think like, that's not a good lunch. That's an $8 lunch. I don't know what the price. It's probably like $54 for that lunch, and per day, and we can't bring in other lunches or anything, so we have to pay that. So we make the choice, like, we want to provide lunches to keep people here, otherwise everybody's gonna leave. So there's some things that we just have to do, I guess. but that's where that money goes. This one is probably of no interest to anybody but the organizers, but I have it in here anyways because it's a chart I made one day. But this is basically what we do is we figure out like when and where we're gonna have the venue, and then we like reverse engineer when we're gonna do things like have the CFP opening and start selling tickets, closing the CFP and stuff like that. So that's just how you can see that information. This one is where we get into something where we think is important to talk about. And so this is the talks submitted and accepted. And so you can see in 2023, like, things were on the up and up. We were getting more and more talks submitted, and then things have kind of stabilized from here. And so that's become like a little bit of concern for us as well, especially given, this year we paid the honorariums. We assumed that we may get more talks this year as a result of that. But that wasn't the case there. So this is something that we're interested in, if people have ideas behind how we can do better, if people also want to get involved in trying to encourage more people to speak at the conference as well. We think we're in a healthy place, but you always want to be in a place where you have a decent number of talks to select from and pick those. So. This one isn't going to make any sense to anybody, but this is something that I look at internally, and so this is basically like which companies are represented from the different speakers, and so we look at this to try and see, like, do we have a lot of different companies? How many of these companies are vendors and things like that? So unfortunately, like, I couldn't fit the 58 more like companies on there, but there's like a lot of companies. Yeah, it's been 115 companies I think have given talks so far at Forward cloudsec, or that we've had people that were employed at one of those companies for. But that data was used for this one, which is also something that is inviting conversation. So what's important to see here is that the blue is talks that are from a practitioner. And so this basically means somebody that is employed at a company that is not a cloud security vendor. And you can see that it has declined. And this was specifically the problem that we were trying to tackle by paying speakers some money for their hotels to come out here. So this is something that we do see as problematic, given that it is a conference that's focused on practitioners. I mean, the talks that we have from vendors, are great, and there's also like this, even though someone comes from a vendor, they're oftentimes giving a talk that is very, it may be exactly what a practitioner does in their job. It just, they happen to be working at a vendor there. But anyways, this is something that we do want to try and address in some way. This one is just our mailing list, how many people subscribe to that, I guess. And so you can see it has grown over time, but so I don't have all years for our Slack data, but this is the Slack data for the past year of basically how many people are active in the Slack, how many people have posted in the Slack. So this is the analytics for it. This is another thing that we are kind of concerned by, is that we believe that we get a ton of value from the Slack. We do, constantly new people are being added to the Slack, but they're not active. They're not really, I guess, like checking it. They're not posting it. They're not becoming an active member of the community for the Slack. And that's something that we don't really know what to do about, because we get a lot of value from it. On the one hand, I'm like, don't ever change. I love this Slack, and I'm worried about change. But on the other hand, like, we do want to make it valuable to more and more people, and have more people, become a part of it and actually become active participants in it. The next thing is we do have this thing called the Technical Oversight Committee. Maybe somebody, Chris or somebody, wants to talk about this a little bit, since I don't really know what to say. But yeah, Chris, can we give Chris a microphone if he wants to say something on this?
Yeah, so one of the people on the Technical Oversight Committee just handed me the microphone. So.
Is he? Oh, yeah, he is on there.
Yeah, he is on there, right? Yeah.
I should have used his LinkedIn
You didn't give
photo.
his picture either.
I know.
So, one of the things is we have this legal entity, and this legal entity can be doing things for us. And, the first thing that the Technical Oversight Committee adopted was because it was from one of your repos, the list of known AWS accounts. So that now sits in the Forward cloudsec Slack, and it's a resource that's available to the community. And we always kind of felt like we should be able to be there more for projects, right? Everybody's got an open source project. If you pass on, win the lottery, decide to get out of cloud security and go raise alpaca, what happens to your project that people depend on? Well, and then that happened. He didn't raise alpaca. It was, Anthropic, but, so we adopted the Granted project, because so many of us use this day to day to get access to our credentials. And let's face it, this is the application that has access to all of our cloud credentials. And if we learned one thing here this week, it's protect your cloud credentials. So we didn't just want that to, get handed off to some random person. So now it is really in the custodial whatever of this community, under the auspices of the Oversight Committee, under the auspices of the board. Yes, there's a lot of overlaps there, but it's there, it's part of this community, and yeah, we're interested in anybody who wants to help.
Cool. That's all we had, I guess. I guess if there's any discussion or anything from people, this is kind of like, we were planning on kind of being an open panel, but we didn't want to put
We did get
chairs
one
up here.
question, which is how can people get involved as volunteer?
Really, it's just reaching out to any of the organizers, and especially if you have areas that you think that you can help us improve on, because that's one of the things that's a problem for us, is people want to volunteer, but then we're like, I don't know what work we have for people. So if people want to let us know about areas to assist in.
I would say that many of us need understudies. Like, I am moving to Europe. I also am the one who finds the hotels every year. I have a great support network with Rising Media, but I also need somebody who can be like, what's the menu we should get? Where should we get the speaker dinner? Things like that. It's not my decision. It's, I gather the data, throw it to the board, or throw it to the organizing committee and everything else. So I think sponsorship coordinator, we could definitely use an understudy for. What I call logistics, which is what I do, we could use an understudy for. Jaron may very well want to get somebody who can help with coordinating AV every year. We've got a great vendor that we use. Job's reasonably easy. Still, it'd be nice to have somebody who could help on that. So that's what I would say is the things that you see, we need understudies for.
One thing I want to add is if there's other things that you think the Forward cloudsec organization more broadly, not just this conference, but the board could be doing. So we mentioned the Technical Oversight Committee and then adopting Granted. If you think there's other things that the organization could be doing and you're interested in leading that as well, I think we would be very open to other people saying, hey, I want to add this thing, where you can just kind of take it and own it. So please don't just constrain yourself to the things that you see today.
Yes. The only thing I would say is just echoing. We don't have tasks to give people, right? This is a small organization. A lot of this exists because people had an idea, talked about it with a few others, and then just grabbed the bull by the horns and ran with it. So the best way to become a volunteer is call your shot, say this is the thing I'd like to own, and then, take your shot. We'll give you the support we can. But we all have day jobs too.
You might be able to just yell at me or repeat the answer.
So first of all, first Forward cloudsec conference, had an awesome time. Thank you for this. Other similar organizations like OWASP, CSA have annual memberships. Is that something that cloudsec wants to avoid or look into potentially for member retention?
I guess so. First of all, like we've almost like avoided bringing in money sometimes, because we don't really have needs for it, and so so that's part of it, and I guess I haven't considered it.
Yeah, I don't think we don't need the money.
I, as the treasurer, I have opinions. So the first thing I would say is we are a nonprofit organization, and what that means is, one, we're not just trying to take in as much money as we can, and then second, there's some, we get some benefits from that in the U.S., but there's also some obligations around how we act. Like we're not allowed to directly engage in, for example, political advocacy. And so my philosophy has always been that we should fund the mission, and that if there's things that we want to be doing for the mission, then we should try to fund that and not just try to penny pinch and get as much money in as we can. And I will also say one other thing is I've also been a very big advocate of saying we should spend the money that we have on our mission. And so, as Scott has said, we've actually built up a pretty decent reserve, and if you have a thing that you say, hey, I want to do this, and maybe I need some seed funding to start it, but we think that we can sort of make it sustainable over the long term. I think that'd be a great thing for us to do in a way as an organization to kind of diversify what we're doing and broaden our impact. But to the extent that do we want to try to charge individual people, it hasn't really been part of our financial model. This conference itself has funded over the years pretty much everything that the organization has needed. Most of the expenses are directly here related to the conference, as well as the EU organization is self-funding. But there's going to be some additional money spent to support Granted. There's some organizational expenses that we have as well, related to tax filings and all that. But if we need to do that, I'm happy to do that. But I want to be conscientious about how we use money. If people are going to give it to us, I want to be able to look them in the eye and be honest and says, thank you, we are putting the money that you are giving us to a good use. So. Yep. Other people have questions. Feel free to, don't be shy.
Hi, Scott. Thank you so much for organizing this. This is my first time being at a security conference. Got out of school last year, so this is really good. Just a quick question, dumb question. What is the story behind the logo of the cloudsec? I'm just curious, why did you choose that?
So it's mostly the cloud, which I think makes sense as a cloud security conference. Everybody has that. And then the paper airplane is there, and that's just because it's playful, I guess. I don't know where Aaron went, but I think
we got a Fiverr to
Yeah.
do our logo. We got a Fiverr to do our logo year one, and so that's the airplane over the cloud.
Yeah.
And then last year, I think we decided, we should do something specific to the city. So that's when we first had an airplane going into the Washington Monument, and then I was like, how about it goes over the Washington Monument? Yep, and that was the first year we actually did a city-specific themed logo, and then we did one for Brussels in the Atomonium, and then this year, obviously, with the Rocky Mountains. Yeah. So, but it really did just come from some random dude on Fiverr who we paid $50 to create us a logo back in 2020 when, and then, do you want to talk about the name?
We'll also mention like there was like the control tower in it, which was kind of reference to AWS control tower. I
Oh,
think,
that's
as
right. There
well.
was the
Yeah.
original logo also had
Yeah.
the airport tower. Yes.
But yeah, the name forward FWD cloudsec, that just is because reinvent, reinforce, they're all like email like headers. What's that?
Remars is another conference that they did. Yeah.
Yep. So we were just basically like playing a joke on them by calling ours FWD, and then
We originally wanted to be called B-Sides
Yeah.
Cloud or something like that, but it turns out that B-Sides is very geographically focused,
Yeah.
and we would have had to get permission from every city we went to have a B-Sides in their city that wasn't organized by them. And so we kind of quickly abandoned the idea of being B-Sides Cloud to be Forward CloudSec.
Yep.
Most awkward name ever. Every time I get a quote, it comes back as just CloudSec or something weird, and I always have to correct the name. Anyone else?
Any details for 2026?
Basically.
Yes, there will be one.
There will be one, yeah. The way it works is we do the conference, we rest because we're exhausted and everything, and then we start talking about where should it be, start planning out the venues,
I get
dates,
anxious
all that.
because like that graph, I like it when that one graph he showed of like how long before the event do we do things. I like it when we pick the venue and it's a really tall thing. It just makes me feel more comfortable. Well, we've done this now enough times that I think we've got a plan. We've got a history with multiple hotel brands. We could go back to where we've been before. We could try something new. I think, I don't know if anybody from the hotel is in the room, but $54 for that lunch was a little bit. But that's the cost to get a room like this. We were either going to pay $30,000 to get the room, or we were going to pay $30,000 for food, and they give us the room for free. So, and hotels have a lot of advantage from a logistical standpoint of they've got all the chairs we need, they've got all the pipe and drape and stages and everything. So it simplifies our lives a lot to do it at a hotel. If you know of good venues, please ping us in Slack. Is the plan goal to flip-flop coasts for location?
No.
It would be a nicety, but not a requirement. I think we have kind of started flopping. Yeah, it was Salt Lake City to Boston, Boston to Anaheim, Anaheim to Arlington, Arlington to Denver. So we kind of are on that vibe. We probably would keep it up. I think personally, as the person who's leaving the country and not probably doing this all forever, I like the idea of just picking 2 hotels and sticking with them, and then there isn't a lot that we have to do. I will say this, the only reason that we haven't really kind of settled on a date for next year is we don't know what's happening with Reinforce. And a lot of our sponsors, a lot of our speakers might have to be at that event. And if we drop our event the same day in a different city, we lose a lot of our community. Have you thought about going outside of the US, Canada, maybe? Yes. I think we have. In fact, we did. We did it last year in Brussels. We'll do it again this year in Berlin. But for the North America event, I think we thought about Canada this year. It was very expensive. We thought about Canada again, and a lot of the feedback we've gotten from a lot of folks is they could go to Canada, they might not be able to get back into the US. And that becomes an impact for folks here who can't leave and come back. So do we do that? Do we lose those people to bring in folks who are outside who don't want to come in? Shh.
There's pros and cons. Yeah.
It's a problematic question, yes. Anybody else tap in? Anybody else in the room?
Yeah, to add to that conversation about Canada, I'm from Canada. I've had some chats and I've talked to Chris about pushing to Canada. But yeah, considering that some people are concerned about coming back in the US if they get out of the country, I don't see that happening for the next foreseeable future, to be polite. So.
And I think it's not convenient if you live in Canada to fly to Europe, but there's an event you could attend there.
On that, I do think, though, obviously, I think most of us feel bad about the people who have those concerns about being able to come into the U.S. And I do think that, I'm very happy that we launched an EU version last year because one of our main goals is trying to make this accessible. Scott opened this discussion with our mission of democratizing this. And so having an event outside of the US, I think, is really important for us given what's going on right now.
And if anybody is on the live stream listening and is thinking about, the Forward cloudsec down under, just let us know.
Anybody else in the room or on the Slack have questions? All right.
Cool. All right. Thank you all.
Yeah. I also want to say just one thing, especially thank you to everyone here. If you didn't show up, we would be very lonely. But you're all the reason we're doing this. And so without you, we wouldn't have a reason to be here. So thank you all so much for your support, whether this is your first Forward cloudsec, whether this is your sixth that you've been to. We appreciate this community. This is what we're about.
And I want to shout out Mustache Power. Hey, give us a wave in the back. Thank you for 5 years now of helping us do this. We have live streams because of you. We have fast recordings. I think yesterday's recordings are already online. And Matthew, if you're still in the room, thank you for helping us organize, find these events. And we'll see you all next year.